I want to introduce now John Frankforther. John called me up and said, I built this bridge and I'd like to do the Watch Me Build section that you talked about starting. So John is the guinea pig. This is the first time we've done this, and this is his first session tonight. And John, I can't thank you enough for wanting to do it. And I hope everybody enjoys what you're doing. It's an S-scale bridge that John scratch built. And this is exactly the kind of product, the kind of modeling that I was hoping that we could have on this section, because we're not asking you to buy kits, build along with us, none of that at all. This is John showing us his techniques and his modeling, and I hope you enjoy it. And John, thanks again for doing it.
John's not here tonight.
I got you. Well, okay, moving right along.
All right. Now let's see where. Okay. So since well, let me introduce myself. I've written the Scratch Building for the Beginner for those out there who are not MMRs or have been sitting in the background saying, ooh, look at those models. I wish I could build that. Well, in my series, I'm going to try to work through how I went about building my first bridge. I'm sure I'm going to see a lot of, or there's probably going to be a lot of people says, well, I would have never built it that way. But you know what? This is how I build it. It's my first bridge. So let's take a look. So my name is John Frankforther. That's pronounced Frankforther. I'm a retired electromechanical service tech, 40 years in the industry working for RCA and Pitney Bowes. Lots of hands-on scratch building when you work on electronic cables, test fixtures, machine repair. And if you get something that breaks down, 9 times out of 10, you got to make parts to make it work. Lifetime American Flyer owner. I've upgraded some of my Flyer engines to the new DC can motors so I can run DC on my layout. My whole layout is now DCC. I started scratch building on my layout because there's not a lot out there in S gauge that I want. This bridge that I'm going to show you how I built. It's going to be a very basic bridge. It kind of looks like it should. It may have things that are missing, but this is my first attempt, so I'm going to go with that. I also work with Arduino-based modules. I know there was talk that there may be some interest in that as far as some of my future builds, so we will talk about that later. So what is scratch building? Well, it's a process of building scale model from scratch. I mean, you take wood, cardboard, paper, plastic, or whatever, and you put it together and make a model. So the way I'm doing this is as if you guys are in the red asking the questions, and these are my replies. So this is my first attempt at this, so I hope it works okay. So where do I get these pieces, parts to make the model? Well, you can either make them, get them at a hobby craft store, or get them online. But I don't have a machine to make the parts or nowhere to buy them. You just need a few simple hand tools and some patience to make your own parts, or you can find them at a local hobby craft store or online hobby stores. And Phil came up with a great selection of tools that you may need once you get into modeling, but these are some of the basic tools I have when I started working on my model. The X-Acto knife with extra blades, pencil, ruler, scissors, tape to hold the project together while it's gluing, tweezers, magnifying glass, plastic T-square for making right triangles, and possibly a compass for making circles. Some of the tools I bought at Micromark. It's a great place for to find small hand modeling tools. Some of the hobby stores, if you have any near you, also carry a line of tools. So as was mentioned in the tools before, when you're looking for tools, you want to try to find a ruler that has the scale that you're working on. This will be make measuring your tools easier. On the lower edge of this particular ruler, it's marked out in 3/16 scale, which is what I model in. If you notice, the divisions to the left of the 0 are fractions of foot. And when you're using these kind of rulers, you got to make sure that you're using the correct selection on the ruler to get the right measurements. So if you look at the ruler, the large numbers on the 3/16 edge going left to right are your scale feet for the 3/16 scale. The smaller numbers going from 124 to the right are for a different scale that are marked on the other end of the ruler. For an example, if you need a 4-foot beam long, place the end of your material at the 0 mark and at the other end at 4, and that'll give you your 4-foot scale beam. So how do I fasten these parts together? Well, most people use some sort of a glue. So what kind of glue do I need? Well, it depends on the material you're using. It could be wood glue, CA plastic glue, hot glue, even epoxy. You can check your local hobby store, check a local train group, ask here on New Track Show, check out model building magazines, or use Google to search for different types of glues. Okay, so I have all the stuff you mentioned. Now what? First, you need to know what scale you're going to build in. Scale, what do you mean? Well, scale is the size of the project you're trying to represent. Popular scales are G, O or Lionel, S or American Flyer, HO, N, C, and a host of other various variations. If you know what scale you're modeling in, you can check the web to see what scale factor is. Look, what scale factor? What's that? When models are made, they are scaled down to a size that fits the model needed. For instance, I modeled an S scale, which means 3/16 of an inch equals 1 foot. So if you had a beam that needs to be 25 feet long, you would multiply 25 by 1.875 to get 4.6875 inches, or 4 11/16 to get the scale inches you need to make a 25-foot beam. Whoa, where did you get that 0.1875 in the calculation? Well, since my scale factor is 3/16 of an inch, you divide 3 by 16 to get the 1.875. You use this number when calculating your measurements for your parts. Okay, I get it. I have the tools. I know what scale I'm in. I know what scale factor, and I know how to make the parts. Now what? Well, you need an idea or a plan to start with. Maybe something you saw in a magazine. Sometimes you can find a full-scale diagram of what you want to build that has the measurements on them. Other times, you have to estimate the dimensions, what fits your needs. You may even need to use measurements that you can find of a similar project to estimate the basic dimensions you need. Can you give me an example? Okay, let's look at an example of a standard entry door. Its measurement is 80 inches high by 36 inches wide. I'll be using my 3/16 scale calculation of 0.1875 to find the new scale measurements. Since the door measurements are in inches and our scale calculations are in feet, you need to convert the inches to feet. Using the 80 inches, we divide by 12 and we get 6.66 feet. Now we can convert that to our scale feet by multiplying 6.66 times 0.1875, and we get 1.25 inches, or 1 1/4 inches for our door height. We do the same thing for the width. 36 divided by 12 equals 3. 3 times 0.1875 equals 5.625, or 9/16 for the door width. So our scale door measurement, it would need to be 1 1/4 inch high by 9/16 wide. Okay, I think I got it so far. What if I don't have actual objects to measure from? Good question. In our next session, we'll look at how I constructed a bridge that spans across 2 tables on my layout from pictures I found on the internet. That's all I have today. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer the best I can.
John, I appreciate it. I think that was great, and I'm looking forward to your next presentation, which will be 1 week from today. John will be back for number 2, so stay tuned.